Most people find out their spouse is cheating through a stray text message or a smell of perfume. I found out my marriage was over when a man in a suit knocked on my door and asked me when I planned on vacating the premises. I told him he had the wrong house. I told him my wife, Elena, handles the bills and that we've never missed a payment in 10 years. He handed me a folder. It wasn't just a missed payment. Our house, the home I worked 60 hours a week to pay for, was being foreclosed on. And the kicker? The money I had been transferring to our joint account every month for the mortgage? It wasn't gone. It was being used to build a life that didn't include me. Let me give you some context. I'm an engineer, and Elena is, or I thought she was, a stay-at-home mom to our 2 dogs. We decided early on that I would handle the income and she would handle the administration of our lives. I trusted her completely. Every month I'd move $4,000 into our shared house account. I'd see the balance dip. I'd see the mortgage payment line item, and I'd go back to work. But about 6 months ago, Elena started changing. She became obsessed with minimalism. She started selling our furniture on Facebook Marketplace. She said we were decluttering. I thought it was a hobby. I even helped her load the dining room table into a stranger's truck. I didn't realize she wasn't decluttering, she was liquidating. After the man in the suit left, I went into our home office. For the first time in years, I looked for the physical bank statements. They weren't in the filing cabinet. They weren't in the desk. I eventually found them hidden inside a hollowed-out cookbook in the pantry. I sat on the kitchen floor and read through 6 months of history. Elena had set up a dummy transfer. The mortgage payment I saw on our banking app wasn't going to the bank. She had renamed a private savings account the Bank of America. It was a manual entry trick. The $24,000 I thought had gone to our home was sitting in an account I didn't have access to. But that wasn't the worst part. I found a folder of printed photos. It was a cottage. A small 2-bedroom place about 3 hours north, tucked away in the woods. There was a bill of sale in the folder. The buyer wasn't the Miller family. It was just her. I didn't confront her that night. I played the part. I ate dinner, I kissed her forehead, and I listened to her talk about a new meditation retreat she wanted to go to next weekend. Next Saturday, she packed a bag and left. I waited 10 minutes, then I got in my car. I followed her GPS coordinates to that cottage. When I pulled up, I didn't see another man. I didn't see a retreat. I saw my wife wearing overalls, painting the front door of a house that was fully furnished, with our furniture. The dining room table I helped her sell, it was in her new dining room. Our old guest bed, in the master suite. She was literally building a second version of our life just without me in it. I walked up the driveway. The look on her face wasn't guilt, it wasn't fear, it was annoyance, like I had ruined her favorite show by walking in during the finale. She didn't cry, she just sat on the porch swing and told me she was done. She said she didn't want the drama of a divorce or the mess of selling the house. Her plan was to let our home go into foreclosure, let my credit score take the hit since the mortgage was in my name, and just vanish. She told me, "I figured by the time the bank kicked you out, I'd be settled in here and you wouldn't be able to find me." She had used my own hard-earned money to buy her escape pod, while ensuring I'd be left with nothing but debt and a ruined reputation. I'm talking to a lawyer now. Since she used marital assets, my salary, to buy the cottage, my lawyer says I have a claim to it. But, honestly, I don't even want it. Every time I look at a piece of wood or a can of paint, I think about how she calculated my ruin while I was telling her I loved her. How do you even recover from someone being that cold? Is there a way to ever trust a partner with a bank account again? I didn't call the police that night. If I had, she would have panicked and moved the rest of the money. Instead, I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I apologized. I looked her in the eye and said, "You're right. I've been a workaholic. If this is what you need to be happy, keep the cottage. Just let me stay in the main house until the bank takes it so I can figure out my next move." She fell for it. She thought she had broken me so completely that I had no fight left. For the next 3 weeks, I played the defeated husband. Meanwhile, my lawyer and a forensic accountant were performing an autopsy on our finances. We found out she hadn't just stolen the mortgage money. She had opened 3 credit cards in my name, maxed them out to buy the high-end appliances for her cottage, and then changed the billing address to a P.O. box. The total theft? Over $82,000. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Elena was at her cottage, probably drinking coffee on our old porch swing. I sat in my lawyer's office as he made 3 phone calls. First, we contacted the bank. Since I had proof of domestic financial abuse and a police report for identity theft regarding the credit cards, the bank agreed to a stay on the foreclosure. Second, we filed an injunction. Because that cottage was bought with marital funds during the marriage, it wasn't her house. It was our house. And because she had committed fraud to get it, the judge granted me temporary exclusive occupancy of both properties. Third, I called a locksmith and a moving crew. I drove up to the cottage. Elena was there. When she saw the sheriff's deputy standing behind me, the annoyed look on her face finally turned into pure, unadulterated terror. I handed her the court order. I told her, "You wanted to be a minimalist? Here's your chance. You have 20 minutes to pack a suitcase. Everything else in this house, the furniture, the appliances, even the paint on the walls, was bought with my money. It stays." She started screaming that I was homeless and that she'd sue me. I just pointed to the deputy. "Elena," I said, "the credit cards you opened in my name? That's a felony. My lawyer is giving you a choice. Sign the cottage over to me entirely as part of a simplified divorce settlement, or we move forward with the criminal identity theft charges." She looked at the deputy. She looked at the moving truck. She realized that the trap she had set for me had snapped shut on her own life. She signed. "It's been 6 months. The big house is gone. I sold it to pay off the debts she racked up, but I didn't end up on the street. I'm living in the cottage now. I repainted that front door. I replaced the furniture. It's small, it's quiet, and most importantly, the bills are paid." Elena moved back in with her parents. Last I heard, she's working a retail job to pay back the restitution part of our settlement. She sends me texts occasionally, blaming me for ruining her dream. I don't reply. I just look out at the woods, take a deep breath, and appreciate the silence. Because for the first time in 10 years, I know exactly who is sleeping in the house with me. Just me. And I've never felt safer. That's the end of this saga. It goes to show, trust your gut. If the math in your relationship doesn't add up, start looking at the receipts. Thanks for writing this one out with me. I'll see you in the next one.